Hey friends, I'm glad you joined me today. I wanted to give you a tour of the hydrangeas in my garden. It's currently the end of July, and I'm entitling this video for a big impact in your summer garden, plant hydrangeas. And I'm going to put my sunglasses on here because of the gnats. As we move around the gardens, we will look at the different cultivars of hydrangeas that I have. I have several videos here on my channel about different topics concerning hydrangeas. This one is a little Quickfire from Proven Winners. I'll put all the specs of all the hydrangeas we'll talk about either on the screen or in the description below, or both, because I don't remember off the top of my head the specs on everything. But this one is a little Quickfire Paniculata Hydrangea. They bloom on new wood, so I pruned them back in late winter, early spring. This particular one has been in the ground probably, I want to say maybe 8 years, 8+ years, maybe closer to 10 years. And I pruned it back really hard this year, but it was getting, you can see how tall it is. I'm 5'4", and of course we're standing on a hill, but it was getting taller than I wanted it to, and it was getting quite a bit taller than the specs. I believe was getting taller than the specs say. So I wanted to size control it, and I'm so glad I did because it has bloomed so prolifically this year. It's always bloomed really well. It's one of the best blooming paniculatas, or well, one of the earliest blooming paniculatas in my garden. But the pollinators are loving it right now. We've never talked about, or I've never shared about the fact that these paniculata hydrangeas, this one and Limelight, Little Lime, Light Prime, a lot of the cultivars have sterile and non-sterile blooms. So one of you pointed that out, and I was like, yeah, I've never really talked about it here on my channel. So that means the pollinators are going to love your paniculata hydrangeas, especially little Quickfire. They do love it. So you've got the little ones that produce pollen, the little flowers, and then the bigger ones are the sterile that do not produce any pollen. The little ones here on the bloom head are what the pollinators go after. So that's a real plus that this has both sterile and non-sterile flowers on it. You can see that the little Quickfire, when it starts blooming, it is white, and then it quickly starts turning to this beautiful pink fire-like color. When they reach their full potential of the little Quickfire color, especially at night, they definitely look like they're on fire. So the little Quickfire is really a must-have for your garden, and it's a showstopper during the summer. This one is a macrophylla hydrangea, or your big leaf hydrangea. You can see, and I'm giving you a close-up shot here, but you can see the sparseness of the blooms. When I planted this one here probably a good 10-11 years ago, it was pink, and because of the acidity in my soil it turned blue. And I've showed you this area before. This is kind of a utility area with the gas tank and the electrical box and everything. There's another macrophylla over there that hardly ever blooms because I use it for foliage, so I'm always cutting on it, which means I'm cutting off my blooms most likely for the following year. These will set their buds, I believe it's the months of August through October, September through and October. They're going to set their buds for the following year. So if you prune them or use the foliage for arrangements or bouquets, you are definitely, oh, there's a hummingbird. You're definitely going to cut off your blooms for the following year. Now, in this case, we had a late freeze, and it was literally budded up, so gorgeous, and it was full of buds. And the late freeze killed off all of the buds that were exposed. This shrub is too large for me to cover, so there's really nothing I could do about it. But I did at least get some of the blooms that were the buds that were hiding down in there that were protected from the freeze. I was able to get some of the blooms. So I love to use those and dry those. I hang them upside down, kind of like you would fish, you know, on a string, and they dry and retain their color so beautifully. So I'll wait a while. It's a little too early to cut them for drying. They need to sort of antique out and age out a little more. But this is a macrophylla hydrangea, so you definitely don't want to prune these in the late winter, early spring like we do our paniculatas, because then you will have 0 blooms on your macrophyllas. Here's another little Quickfire that I have in my garden. This one is behind my house. This is kind of my back garden, and I'm trying to create a garden room here. So you'll see in a minute some other hydrangeas that we planted last year together. I think we planted them together that are sort of creating my room. But this is another little Quickfire. There's pollinators on it right now. There's a honeybee there. There's some bumblebees or big carpenter bees, or not carpenter bees, but whatever the big bumblebees are called. But they love it. A lot of times the butterflies really love it. The hummingbirds actually really love the little Quickfires as well. And it's because, like we said, they have the sterile and non-sterile blooms on them. So this is what this bee right now is going after, this the pollen here on this little bloom. So he's enjoying that. I limbed this one up quite a bit. Now, I don't keep this one limbed up as much as I do my little lime paniculata hydrangeas, but I did limb this up, and I did cut it back much harder than I normally cut it back. I cut this back to right around here, and you can see the growth that it has put on since late winter, early spring. I just wanted to sort of rejuvenate it a little bit, because it was getting way, maybe 2 feet taller than it is now. It's just maybe 3 feet. It was really getting tall because they love it here. They're so happy, and I'm happy that they're happy, but I wanted to keep them more size controlled. So you definitely can do that with your paniculata hydrangeas. So we're switching gears on the species of hydrangeas for just a minute. We are here in this little garden space that we planted out together. It's the same area, but it's under this dogwood tree, and we planted this area out together. We created this garden together in a video. And these are smooth hydrangeas. This is wee white. And if you remember in the original video, and I'll link that in the description below, they were so puny looking, the poor things. Oh, they just were in bad shape when I planted them, or when we planted them together. But they were in bloom when we planted them. I'm going to go ahead and cut off all of these spent blooms, but I'm showing you a close-up here. They are putting on new buds. They are getting ready to bloom again. So I am so pleased with that. They put on a lot of new growth. So you can see that they're happy, they're healthy, and here's the other one here. And as I said, you're looking at a close-up of the blooms that are coming on. I'm so pleased with the way they did. Because this is a wee white and it's going to stay small, then I will just basically deadhead the old blooms. I won't really need to do any pruning on these at all, other than deadheading them. And of course, they're getting shade under this dogwood tree. So they get a little bit of dappled sun, as you can see in the video, but they are very happy, and I'm very happy. Probably, maybe we'll add one more next year, we'll see. But I'm also very happy with how these sun patients did. They can take sun or shade, so I'm really happy with how they did and are doing, along with these wee whites. I just basically swung the camera around. I'll give you a backup shot here. I've not done my weed eating and my edging, but I wanted to get this video to you just because it's a perfect time. Everything is just looking, all the hydrangeas are looking so prime right now. Speaking of prime, this is Light Prime. We just planted these last year, but the Light Prime is an improved version of the Light. My hope is, as I said, to create a garden room here and let these get quite a bit tall, but I'm going to work hard at keeping them size controlled to the height that I want them. And I will do that, as we've talked about, by pruning back in the late winter, early spring. The bush is in front here, and I'm not sure what you're seeing in the camera because I don't have anybody helping me film today. But these are Iteas. They are sweet spires. And I love them when they bloom, but I'm thinking about either moving them or just doing away with them. I have 4 of them. I'd love to go in front with maybe a smaller paniculata hydrangea to do like a step down, or even a smooth hydrangea, because I think they this gets enough shade in the afternoon that the smooth hydrangeas would be fine. So I need to talk to my Sweet William about that and sort of convince him, you know, I'm really ready to take these sweet spires out and add something different so that I can go ahead with the flow of the hydrangeas. I swung you around here behind this dogwood tree, behind where we created this new garden together. This is a mini mauvette, smooth hydrangea, and I originally had two planted here, one here, this one here, and another one there. And the one over there just didn't make it. I don't know the reason, but it's mini mauvette. It's pretty much its full size. It's been here probably about 6 years. And I'm showing you some close-ups or some overlay of when the blooms were at their prime. Now they're faded. This is another one of my favorite hydrangeas, the mini mauvette. I definitely would not have put it here had I known what it was when I bought it. The tag said limelight, paniculata hydrangeas, and I'm like, that's not a limelight. I know what a limelight is. This is some sort of a smooth hydrangea. So I contacted Proven Winners when I had both of them, and I said, can you tell me which one this is? And they said, well, it's probably a mini mauvette, and now it's proved out because the size it's staying. So I definitely, had I known it was a mini mauvette, I would have planted it in another area. But it's sweet here and just one of my favorite hydrangeas. So before we talk about kind of the star of the show, I wanted to show you this Invincibelle Ruby Hydrangea. I'm overlaying some of the footage that you're seeing of when it was in its prime bloom because I'm trying to keep my camera in the shade, and I'll show you just a shot of this straight on. I'll add it in here. But the Invincibelle Ruby blooms, of course, are already fading. The color on the Invincibelle Ruby is I don't know, it's incredible in the springtime. It's an early bloomer. It's one of the first, it's the first smooth hydrangea to start blooming for me, that and the mini mauvette. But this is the size that it's going to stay. It doesn't really get any larger than that. So what is that, like four feet tall, maybe? I don't know, 3.5, 4 feet tall, something like that. Probably 4 feet tall, 4 by 4. So it's definitely a lovely, lovely hydrangea. Pretty much I just deadhead this. And of course Danielle, I keep referring to her because she's such a wealth of information for us. But she just learned from Proven Winners that if you cut off right below, if you cut the old blooms off, you could very well, by October, you could very well get some new blooms from these smooth hydrangeas. So I haven't really had time to do that. But that would be a great experiment to see if that worked. These are Firelight Tidbits, and we had these in containers. I think it was maybe the autumn of, I want to say 2022, maybe, that we planted these together in a video in containers. They stayed in their containers about, you know, a couple years, of course. So last, when was it? When did I plant this? Early this spring, I planted these out in the ground, and look at them. Oh gosh, they are just so pretty. Again, the Firelight Tidbit is not going to get any larger than this. It's a great, great small panicle hydrangea if you want to do a container, or if you want to plant, if you have a small space that you want to plant these out. It's absolutely gorgeous. And I see one of these bind whatever weeds trying to grow up it, so we'll get rid of that. But I really enjoy having the Firelight Tidbit, and it did really well in the containers. It survived my winters here. I am in a zone 6B/7, sort of right in the middle of the two in the Blue Ridge Mountains of Virginia. It survived for 2 winters, but I felt like it was time to go ahead and plant them out, and I'm so glad I did. So glad. I will mention this Rudbeckia here. All of this Rudbeckia you're seeing self-sowed itself. I had some Rudbeckia, 1 or 2 Rudbeckia plants in here last summer, and I always pull them because they're, hi butterfly, they're basically an annual for me, but they will throw off some seeds, and so they don't grow like a perennial for me, but they do throw off seeds. And this is all self-seeded Rudbeckia here. Isn't that great? Free plants the next year. So I love Rudbeckia. I love it so much. So now let's come to the star of the show. These, believe it or not, are little lime hydrangeas. They're not limelights. They are little lime. They have the sterile and non-sterile flowers. You can see when they're budding out here, the part of the flower that has pollen on it. That's why you don't want to cut them too early, because they will shed on your table or whatever. So you want to wait and cut flowers when they're just a little bit more mature. But the pollinators do absolutely love them, and I see bees on them. A lot of times I'll see butterflies on these. Our house is there's a butterfly now. I don't know if you're seeing that. I don't think you're seeing that. Anyway, I'm sweating like crazy. Our house is a one-story house, but the ceilings are very tall, so that made our house taller. And so you can see how tall these are. And I literally cut these down to right about, I don't know, are you seeing that? I literally cut these down to about here, late winter, early spring this year. And I just chopped them hard. I chopped them hard last year, and they did the same thing. When you prune your paniculatas, you get this kind of a show. They don't get spindly, they don't get floppy. They just put on this kind of a show. Now, this is one of 3 that I have of this particular cultivar. So we will swing around and show you the other 2. I mean, can you get over that? That is absolutely gorgeous. And you know, when you're driving around this time of year and you see people that have the paniculatas in their yards or whatever, you can tell which ones have been pruned and which ones have not ever been pruned. They just look terrible when they haven't been properly pruned. They just are floppy, they're woody in the center, and it's just not, they're just not pleasing to me. But I do keep my paniculatas limbed up, and I have to do that several times during the year. Other than that, I do nothing to these. They are such easy cares. Now, sometimes the boxworms or the worm, there's another worm that makes the big web, will get in them, and if that's the case, then I just cut off that area of the hydrangea. I just cut it off and destroy, and just take that up in the woods somewhere, destroy it, or even spray those with some vinegar or something, just to kill off those webworms. But I forget what that particular worm is called. Anyway, it's a terrible worm, and it will kill the entire shrub. So you want to pay attention to that. But really, other than that, for the paniculatas, you don't have to do any care during the summer. They are such an impactful part of your garden. And I fertilize mine when I prune them back and when I start seeing the green growth. But I fertilize these when I prune them back, when I see the little green growth starting to appear. With Rose Tone by Espoma, it's an organic granulated fertilizer, and that is it. I don't have to do anything else to my paniculatas. I also love drying these blooms. So when they start getting their little antique-y look, they start out this color, and then they get like a lime greenish, and then they turn more of an antique color, and a little pink. They get a little bit of pink, a little bit of antique looking color in them. That's the time that I cut them to dry them, and then just dry them in bunches. You can either dry them with a little bit of water and let that evaporate. That's one method, or I just dry them hanging upside down in bunches. Either way works really well. So these are the other 2 of the 3 that I have. You can see this one back here, and you can see the shape of it. I mean, when you prune them like this, the shape is just perfect. I mean, to me, that is a perfectly shaped hydrangea. And I'm not bragging on myself, I'm bragging on these hydrangeas. If you treat them right, give them a little bit of care, and prune them like you're supposed to, then you get this show. I mean, is that not gorgeous or what? And they do really well up against the house. I don't believe that their roots go down into your foundation. These have been here. We've been in this house, I believe it's 13 years. We built this house. We've lived on the farm our entire married life, but this is the however many houses we've lived in on the farm. Anyway, we built this one about 13 years ago, the year after we moved in, that I planted these here. And oh my goodness, I mean, they just are incredible. So my thoughts on planting hydrangeas: if you want some that are really reliable, that are easy care, that you don't have to be concerned about, oh, this is going to get hit by a frost or a freeze. You don't have to worry about that with the paniculatas. You don't really even have to worry about that so much with the smooth hydrangeas, but the paniculatas just, I mean, they're just really, really reliable. So I really can recommend smooth hydrangeas and paniculata hydrangeas as far as being easy care and reliable for your gardens. I want to show you one more smooth hydrangea that I have in a container, and then we'll wrap this up. You're probably not seeing this real well straight on. It's in a metal ring container, and it doesn't have a bottom in it. This is an Invincibelle Ruby Smooth Hydrangea, so it can probably get, it's probably going to get maybe another foot taller than this at its full potential because it's in a container. The container is 3 foot in diameter and it's about 15 inches tall. So it's going to restrict those roots somewhat, so it may not grow to its full potential. But when the blooms were at their full prime, it was so, so pretty. As we wrap this up, I just wanted to have one more view of these gorgeous little limes. And as we said, there's so many species of hydrangeas. We talked about the lace cap, which are the mountain hydrangeas. There's the oak leaf hydrangeas that like a little bit more shade. They're very similar to the little Quickfires in their bloom shape. There's just so many hydrangeas that I can't even name right now. I'd have to sit down and look at it. You want a real summer impact that's super easy care. You don't really have to do anything much other than just keep a check on what may be trying to build its home in your hydrangeas, such as those worms that we talked about. But if you want super impact in your garden, then plant some paniculatas, some smooths, and even if you're brave and you really are in the right zone to plant some macrophyllas, go ahead and do that as well. My macrophyllas sort of melt down because they get a little bit too much evening or afternoon sun, so they melt down really a lot in the sun, but then they perk back up and they're beautiful in the morning. So you do have to keep that in mind with your macrophyllas. They like to be protected in the afternoon. But anyway, please leave me some comments or questions. If you have questions that I can answer, I'll do my best. But if you have comments and some things maybe that I did not bring up concerning hydrangeas, please feel free to comment so that we can all learn and grow together. Until next time, friends, happy gardening. Bye-bye.